Hawa is the executive director of the NWT YWCA. She took on that role back in 2020. She has extensive experience working with families, victim services, youth, and adults with disabilities. So Hawa, over to you. Please welcome Hawa.
I moved to Yellowknife 20 years ago with my family. I came from Sierra Leone, where I was fleeing a civil war with my family, and we've made Canada our home since then. So it's really a pleasure to be here and just being in Yellowknife for the last 20 years and getting to know the community more and working and interacting with people. So I'm the ED for the YWCA NWT. I took on the role just when COVID started, so that was a terrible time. But overall, it's been a pleasure. So in terms of YWCA and the work that we do, YWCA has been in the NWT since 1966, so 50 plus years, working in the area of family violence, homelessness for families, helping with childcare, and doing a lot of advocacy around those issues. The main focus of the Y is equality for women and girls in the NWT. Initially, we started off as the YWCA Yellowknife, and then we became YWCA NWT to reflect the extended services that we provide in some communities in the Northwest Territories, not just Yellowknife. So we do have a transitional housing program, which is for families that are hard to house in a sense, because we do have families that are coming to us because they're not able to get leases in their own names. They're not able to secure units just on their own because of poor credit history, or they have poor history with the landlords and landlords will not rent to them. So in those cases, the YWCA take on the responsibility, lease the units, and then we lease it to the client in return. So on average yearly, we serve about over 100 families. We prevent them from becoming homeless. So whether that's putting them into units and taking on the lease, or just making sure that their power bill is getting paid. If they owe rent, we're helping them to find support. And sometimes within our funding too, we're able to help provide that rental subsidy to some extent. And so with the housing program, there's a lot that goes on into it. It's not just about providing the housing, but it's also about that wraparound support to ensure that people stay housed. And so in terms of the wraparound, we also do the cultural on-the-land programming for Indigenous clients, where the worker work with the clients directly. We bring in other service providers. So for example, we work with YKDFN to make sure we're bringing in culturally relevant programs, getting the clients on the land, and really getting them back to their culture to, boost up their sense of self-esteem, taking care of their mental health and all of those facts, and getting them connected again or reconnected to their culture. So the staff there work a lot around teaching life skills, making sure clients know how to budget. The second program is also part of housing, but it's second stage housing for women that are victims of family violence, or they've experienced some form of violence in their lives. So that's our transitional housing, where we house clients for up to 3 years. They do pay rent, but our rent is below the market rent. So they come there, we're staffed 24/7. They have support workers that work with them to address any issues that they need to work on in order to be stable, and then they can be able to move on into permanent housing on their own. But even when clients do move out, we continue to provide that ongoing support. It's not just about when they're in our program. Similar with our housing program and with our shelters too, we find sometimes clients will still call us for support, or just to say they're doing well, or if something new come up, they reach out to us for that support. And then the next piece of the program is the shelter services. So we have 2 shelters, one in Yellowknife, one in Fort Smith. The shelter in Yellowknife, we have 6 rooms. In Fort Smith, 4 rooms, and that's for women and children fleeing family violence. Women can stay there for up to 6 weeks. to just short-time emergency stay. During that time, they can work on whatever issues they need to. Sometimes women come in to just take a break from the relationship. Sometimes they come in because they've left for good and they want us to help them to take that next step. And that next step usually is helping them secure housing and then help them find jobs or talk to them about the options of going back to school and whatever the client is looking to do. So during their time at the shelter, the staff spend time with them working through those issues and providing that support. And also part of the shelter support is a 24/7 crisis line. So even if clients are not there, anyone can call throughout the territory for support. And the shelter in Fort Smith does the similar services. But in terms of the shelter in Yellowknife, we also do the emergency protection orders, which is for anyone in family situation that's in need of protection, but it has to be an emergency event. So people can get it for up to 90 days, anywhere from 30 to 90 days if they want. We do a lot of advocacy too, not just the day-to-day work. And then the other program is the Child and Youth, which is where we provide the after-school program. So usually we have anywhere from 250 to 300 children in that program. So it's in currently 5 of the elementary schools in Yellowknife. We provide after school during schools. So if there's summer break or Christmas break, we don't provide. So the after school work alongside the school schedule. And within the Child and Youth as well, we have girls programming and Dudes Club. So the girls programming is an empowerment program for any child ages 8 to 17. They talk about things like self-esteem, healthy relationships, and we try to get the kids out there too to be involved in the community and do some volunteering. So in the past, they've participated in the Take Back the Nights, they've participated with SPCA, and just trying to get them out there to learn about different things, learn more about their communities, give back, and really focus on their mental health and their well-being. The project Child Recovery is similar, but the only addition to that is we also focus on violence prevention for the kids. So the focus of that is for kids that have witnessed or that are in violent situations. So we talk a lot about how they can stay safe when there's violence at home, who they can call for support. And finally, we do other projects as well. So currently one of our projects is the Safe Homes Project, which we're looking at launching in 3 regions. So in the Satu, Klitschko, and Decho. So 1 safe home in each of those regions. We're looking at testing for the next couple years. Because we do realize that in the NWT, we have so many communities, but we only have 5 shelters spread throughout. And so part of the safe home is to really test the need in those communities and then be able to use that information to lobby for shelter or for that safe home to stay on and being funded permanently by whether it's a local government or the federal government. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? That was
He's
kind of
asking
a lot
one.
that you told us.
Yes.
Hi. I'm kind of curious about, you mentioned reasons for your clients coming in, why they're showing up at your door.
Okay.
What's the root cause? Like, what's one of the biggest problems? And is it a lack of education? Is it alcohol, drug abuse? Is it pure poverty? You go back.
Yes, Lord. Yes. So whether it's for housing, like homelessness, or we find with homelessness, some are coming to us because they're fleeing from family violence situations. So that's usually one of the key stuff that we see in the shelter as well. When clients usually come in, then they have really limited options. That's where we start working with them around making sure that they can become financially dependent instead of depending on someone else for that support, and usually that's the spouse. And so most times you find people stay in those relationships because of the security that relationship provides, even though it's not a safe one. And that's usually issues around finances and then issues around child custody. But when we look at the reason why some of the clients come to us, to the shelter or to the housing program, it's because they're really in situations where they can't afford things on their own. So poverty and not really having the skills to go out and get a job and being like dependent and taking care of their own responsibilities. And sometimes too, there's the interplay of alcohol and drugs. So in our programs, we try to use a harm reduction approach to some extent, but because we work with children as well, when clients come into the shelter, we have little kids with them most often, we can't really do that. And so most times when clients come in, if they're intoxicated, we have to send them somewhere else where they can stay until they get sober. And so there's some issues around the substance, the upbringing too, right?
You're doing? I find quite often I'm approached on the streets. Somebody says they're evicted, but they haven't been before the rental officer. It's that threatening letter they get from their landlord, and they believe they're evicted. But landlords don't have that authority.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, beyond the people in your programs, is anyone doing any tenant education?
We do that for the clients in our program, right? So if they're already on our wait list or we're already serving them or they were a previous client, because they tend to come in again for new issues. So we can help around that, but I don't think there's anyone that does that. So it's about clients figuring out to where to go, like talking about the challenges within the system, right? Trying to even figure out the right place to go for support.
Thanks.
I think that wraps up.